In progress.
Well, Steve Smith has just arrived as well.
We'll let the last few dribble in, as they say.
Yep.
There.
Trevor's on.
But I haven't
You haven't got your background.
haven't got the background yet. Yeah.
So click on
Which one is it?
No.
That one?
that one.
You see, tighten your background.
Here. Downloads.
Downloads.
No, you asked me to tidy things up, so I've got tidied. It's in there. It's got tools in it. So I was tried to
Right. What do we do with it?
Not got my picture on that, gents. Sorry.
We can see you and hear
Yeah,
you, Tom.
good morning,
That's
Tom.
good.
We can
That's
see
right.
you
Well,
loud and
Tom,
clear.
hear you and see you.
Good morning.
And good morning to everybody.
Right, where do we put the background in?
Oh, what have I done wrong now?
I don't know.
I wouldn't worry about it, Tom, if it's a
All
problem.
right, Tom. We
Right.
Okay.
your ceiling is quite acceptable.
Sorry about that. But
Very good.
technical support's gone back to do the ironing.
Great. Okay. As I say, good to see everybody. That's fantastic. Quite a good turnout. So we'll kick the meeting off. The first item on the agenda says apologies for absence. Roger or Mike, do you have a list of apologies?
I have from Nigel Fitzmaurice-Hawker, Lloyd Evans and Malcolm Banya, and also I think Bernard Roost
Yes.
was going to asked for a link to join us, but then has been unable to do so. So it's just those four that I'm aware of.
And we had a message from Bob Hobbs, didn't we, at some point?
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
His ex company, wasn't he, Bob Hobbs?
Okay.
Yeah, he was the spares guy. He's the one who lives in Carl.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. So quorum count 10. I think there's more of us than 10. So the meeting is legal.
Yeah.
On to item 2 on the agenda, which is minutes of the last meeting. Well, I take the view that they were all done on a video, and if you want to see them, that's available through the website, and nobody's said anything or raised any issues. So we will accept, if you like, that as a complete record. If
I think so. So you've just been recording.
You have said.
I think you're muted.
So if we could have a show of hands, please, for accepting the minutes of the last meeting. Last AGM.
Can't see me. I don't know how to get my face up.
Me too.
I think we've probably had enough of yeses. Those who are against it, perhaps you'd like to raise your hand or speak if you're not on video. Silence. Good. Okay, well, we'll take that as accepted then.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, whoever you are.
Trevor, it's Trevor Scott Worthington. I can't get my face up somehow.
At the bottom of the screen, Trevor, there should be a little video side, bottom left-hand side, and you need to switch on the video.
There it is.
Oh, it's working.
Hands up.
Well done.
Very good. Okay. Opening remarks from the chairman. It says here, I'm sure you've all read those, haven't you, in your globe?
Yep.
And I will probably just very quickly pick up the highlights. So welcome everybody, including those from who join us from afar. That's wonderful. My first year as chairman's gone without any major hiccups that I've noticed anyway. It was a delight to meet members at the club's annual rally and other events. The main thing I have to say is how wonderful the committee has been in support of me. Hugely helpful, hardworking, and pleasure to deal with. Worth saying that Paul Collard and Harry Bickle are now well established in their new roles. And Roger Stone has produced the regular and excellent Globe newsletter, as well as the annual calendar, despite some particularly difficult personal circumstances. So my heartfelt thanks go to the whole team, and I look forward to seeing many of everybody at the rally. There's little more for me to say, as the officers will now report on the club's detailed proceedings. First item we ought to pick up under all of that is the adoption of the updated constitution. It's something that we worked on very gently over the last year, updated really just online banking, so that's now legitimate, and remote conferencing, so this meeting is now legitimate, and details for the webmaster and event secretary posts. So on the basis that everybody has read in great detail all constitution, could I have a vote, please, on accepting the constitution in the revised format as it is currently published? Show of hands, please. Appears to be a full house. Is there anybody who would like to say no to that or raise an issue? Okay, we will accept that then. Thank you. The next item, number 5 on the agenda, is confirmation of continuation of committee roles and members. You're stuck with me at the moment. The other people all agree to stay, and I'd like en bloc to vote those in as the constitution requires. So if I could have a show of hands for accepting the current committee, that would be very helpful. Yeah, Phil's with us as well. Good, thank you. Any objections? Or anybody feel they ought to be on the committee? I know that Stephen Smith is lurking in the background as if you like, an apprentice event secretary, and we'll see how he makes out. And if he's still interested at the end of the year, we'll talk to him some more. So thank you for that. So moving on, the next item on the agenda is the Secretary's and Treasurer's report, to be followed by a discussion on future membership subscriptions. Harry, over to you. Would you like to be Secretary for a few moments?
Yeah, that's me. So this year's obviously been my sort of first full year in post, and also with running the new club bank accounts, which we now have with Lloyds. I think everyone, certainly the committee, would agree that it's much easier for us to sort of run and see what's coming in and make payments, receive payments, and check bank accounts, etc. with what we've got with Lloyds now, and also from Paul's point of view in terms of purchasing spares, and also sort of postage and packaging, etc., and the things required for Paul to complete his role. It's much easier. He's got a debit card which links directly to the bank account. So from that side of kind of the kind of things, it's all going well, really. We have had some increase, continued increase in our costs, unfortunately, largely around spares storage, as a result of obviously the container hire that we're having to pay for to store our club spares at the moment, and also a continued increase in the cost of the postage and printing of the Globe magazine, which has unfortunately resulted again this year in sort of running at a loss ultimately on both the general accounts and on the spares side of things. The general account this year, unfortunately, the increase in the loss is quite substantial, at nearly £1,800 sort of in deficit, really. We do have reserves still of around 3,500 after that, but obviously it's something that we can't really allow to continue. The spares account, again, much of the same story. It is quite an increase again in the deficit over last year, and that is largely down to the container storage, obviously, that we're having to pay for. There was also a significant amount more spares purchased in 24 than there were in 23 as well, which is added to that. But spares in itself ran at just over 3,500 in deficit last year. Again, that account has a very healthy balance. There's still sort of 27, nearly 28,000 obviously accrued in that account. But obviously we can't we can't use sort of these club funds really to subsidise for the foreseeable, because they are eventually going to run out. So unless there are any particular questions or queries, I'm happy to submit them accounts for approval from the membership, and then we can get on to the next item.
Harry.
Found it on the bench there. Put something in.
Yeah, Harry, what sort of costs are we spending on these container hires?
So they're £360 a month is our cost. So it's 2 containers that we're hiring at £180 each. Local to Paul, which is vital, obviously, for him to be able to fulfil sort of spares ordership. But it's £360 a month is our cost for these containers.
Right. Okay.
So I mean, it's not extortionate. It's not terrible. We're not paying for a huge unit somewhere, kind of thousands of pounds. But obviously, it is a cost that hasn't been factored in during Bob's sort of oversight of the spares, due to Bob's kind of ability to really house them and store them on site with her.
Okay, I wonder if this is the point at which we should just vote to accept the accounts as presented before we move on to a discussion about where we're going with the membership fee. So if we are prepared to accept the accounts, please could we have a show of hands to adopt the accounts? Okay, thank you very much. Any objections to that? Okay, thank you. We'll take those as accepted.
I don't know who that is. Thomas.
Right. So the next thing then is for Harry, really, I think, to suggest what the forward-going subscription ought to be.
Yeah.
And we'll enter the discussion as to how that will work out. What I'd like to do is point out that within the committee, there's a range of views as to what that should be, from almost no increment to a very large increment. And we really are keen to hear the membership's view as to the direction of travel on that one. So over to you, Harry.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. So I have spent a good amount of time running through the finer detail of the accounts and individual costs from 2024, but also back to 2023 as well, and have ultimately broken down sort of costs almost sort of per member as to what it costs and what money comes out the bank account to sort of serve your membership ultimately. So obviously we've got things like insurance and rally costs and the likes of, but as I say, the large costs really are globe printing and posting. And of course we've got the spare storage as well. Now there is suggestion within sort of some members of the committee and former committee that spares should sort of wash its face itself. However, obviously we've got kind of quite a large increase on our sort of spare storage over previous years, which would result in an increase in the spares cost and probably quite a substantial increase in order to raise the extra capital to sort of make sure that it does wash its face. So I feel that we could sort of potentially reduce the increase on spares prices by subsidising the spares account slightly with a transfer from the membership account, which of course, given that the membership account is also in a sort of a slightly less of a deficit than the spare one, but still in a deficit, would result in an increase. But hopefully, if we were to make a more of a sizable increase now, would potentially mean that sort of future increases in memberships wouldn't be for sort of a good couple of years, sort of 3 years maybe, as a minimum, really. So Our largest cost really is around December time. Everybody gets a printed globe and a calendar, which is great, and we get great feedback on it. So there is obviously a cost to us doing that. Further issues of the globe work out roughly to cost £5 in terms of printing and postage over somebody receiving a globe electronically via email. Obviously there is a difference between an online membership cost and also a posted membership cost. Further to that, we've also got our overseas members as well, where Roger quite frankly pointed out the cost of the membership at the moment barely covers the postage cost alone. So it's something that we do need to address now. As I say, through going through the accounts, what I've proposed in terms to raise the sort of sufficient revenue to firm up the general account, the membership account, and also to subsidise by about £1,500 or so the parts the parts account by numbers of our kind of our current membership. If we were to raise our online membership fee to £35, our posted membership to £50, and then our overseas membership to £60, that would get us in a much better position. Having researched and with various members of the committee also even inputted.
What do you pay for this one here?
The cost of membership for other clubs is actually in line with those figures, if not more. I don't know if anyone else is a membership of the VSCC, but you don't get a lot for less than £140 with them. So it's quite it is quite a sizable increase. I appreciate over the costs that we have been paying for a very long time. Certainly since I've been a member, I think, which is 7 years now and a half. But that's my suggestion. This is not set in stone, and this is the place for the discussion. And as Chris has quite rightly said, there are some differing views within the committee, and ultimately this is the place to hold that discussion. So the outcome of this will be we will take on board your views. And the committee will have a meeting post this AGM to finalise any changes that we're going to make before obviously the membership renewal in May of this year. So yeah, just to reiterate those costs again, the online membership would be my proposal would be £35 for an online member receiving the globe electronically via email. The posted membership would receive obviously them through the post as per normal at £50, and an overseas postage member would be £60.
Overseas posted member.
Oh yeah, well we're not postage, are we?
No, but we still should be paying more.
Tony, I wonder if you could mute, please, because we're picking up a lot of your background noise.
My apologies.
Sorry.
We can hear what you're saying.
Harry.
Yes.
So with the online membership, I don't know what how the numbers currently break down, and I would imagine by having such a differential between 35 and 50, it might persuade a fair number more to go that route. What's in terms of the printing costs and the postage costs on the magazine? You know, if I don't know how many you send out per issue, but if you reduce that by too many, do you lose out on in terms of the cost? You know, does the cost then go up significantly on the print, or what?
It doesn't. So Roger would be best to answer the question on that. But before I go to Roger, I will say I've based these figures on the basic online costs. So in terms of creating the extra revenue to surplus the spares account, and also to cover the cost of obviously the deficit on the membership account from last year, the basic online membership fee will cover that, and the cost of the extra kind of for a posted member is purely to cover the cost of postage and printing. But Roger, I'm sure we'll be able to expand further on costs for printing and postage.
Yeah, happy to do that. The printers that we use haven't changed their rates in the last 5, 8 years, something like that. And they don't have any restriction on the minimum number of copies. They do have a minimum charge of 75 quid for any print job they do. But at present we're paying 278 usually. It varies a bit depending on the cost of the paper and exactly how many pages and so on. But so if it should happen that in response to whatever rises we put in, if we end up with more email members and fewer printed ones, that won't be a problem at all. And the email membership are really what made, the last time we put up the membership was in 2018. And at the same time, we started to attract people who were happy to take their globes electronically. And that last increase, we started off with just a dozen people going electronic. It made a huge difference to the viability of the general account, because after all, an email member doesn't have any costs apart from my time, which is given up voluntarily and there's no charge for. So the more people change to email, if people should make that decision, the better it is for the club's finances. I wouldn't worry on that score. Where I would worry is if people look at Harry's proposed costs and say, oh God, that's getting a bit expensive, and they cut their membership. Now, I think it's purely a guesswork as to how many will decide that way and how many will say, well, I'll take it as an online thing instead. And I felt I'm one of the people who was suggesting that Harry's proposed increases did look a bit scary. I'd be very interested to hear from all the other members present. Are the numbers Harry's proposing, do they sound, oh yeah, that's reasonable, or do they sound, ouch?
I think Trevor had his hand up first. Go, Trevor.
Can I suggest something? Having the calendar delivered rather than trying to run it off on a printing machine is a problem. What about having the online people and just paying for the cost of the calendar postage?
Sorry, Trevor, I didn't make that clear in my point. That's completely my fault. So an online member will still receive a December printed globe and the printed calendar. So that is something that Roger does for all members and is greatly received. Me as an online member have the poster up beside my desk here, the poster, the calendar up beside my desk here, and do like to receive a printed globe in December. So that's included in the online membership. So the calendar printing and the December globe. That's it. That one there. Yeah, that's it. So online members will continue to receive a printed globe and the calendar printed, posted in December.
Right, in which case I will go then onto, I think I'm already on email anyway, but I'll take off the postage ones. So,
okay, thank you, Trevor. I think Gordon was next.
Yeah, thank you. I'm an online member, and the proposed increase seems fine with me. I'm a member of another car club, and the postal charge seems reasonable to me as well. What I would say is that maybe we could steer people towards online, which is possibly the way to go. And if that steering was done in the gentlest possible way, would we actually lose any members? If not, it seems a bit of a no-brainer to just sort of say, well, due to increasing costs, we're going online, and that's it.
Agreed.
Especially for overseas members, because that's where the postage really hits you.
That's where the cost is. Yeah. So I'm mindful. I mean, I'm probably the youngest, certainly in this meeting, certainly on the committee, and potentially even in the club. But so online is not an issue for me. But I am aware that there are people that aren't quite as au fait with using emails and downloading PDFs to read, etc. I think your suggestion is great, Gordon, and in an ideal world would love to have everybody online, and a gentle steer towards that to reduce a potential kind of increased cost. I think would be absolutely great, and I'm sure it's something Roger could speculate amongst the membership. But I think it is still important for those that like to have it, and as another committee member pointed out, the print of the Globe, obviously, that we get through, it's a professional print. It's a good quality magazine. Obviously thanks to almost wholly Roger's input. So it's a nice piece to have, and for members that still wish to have that, I think we should still provide it. But I think you're right, Gordon. A gentle steer towards an online membership would be beneficial for us.
Okay.
And I think
thank you, Gordon.
Phil, I think is.
Thank you, Gordon. The next guy with his hand up is Phil, who's still muted.
That's okay. I'm just press the space bar and I am muted.
There we go. He's done it before.
Yeah, a couple of things really. I'm treasurer of a few other organisations. Neither of them are connected with cars, but obviously we have the subs issue, and it sounds like it's quite similar to here really. That it was an issue I faced last year where membership hadn't gone up since 2016, partly because of the issue everything's getting more expensive and it's more expensive for members, etc. We don't want to discourage people, but we did, put it up not to catch up with inflation, but go somewhere towards it. So, and that seemed to be fine with people, because I think people are paying more for everything, and obviously if this is important to people, it's important to me, then I think you have to kind of accept it. That's one issue. One thing I was just wondering about, and also what I've also said going forwards now for that organisation is, we're doing like a little bit of a catch up, and I think every year there should be an increase in membership, and people kind of expect it. So this year, as an example, our membership's only gone up by £1 a month, £12 a year for most of our members. It's an adjustment to go towards keeping up. Yeah. But it doesn't hurt people in most cases. The other thing I was just going to ask Harry or maybe Roger, I'm not sure, is the overseas people, are they all online, or have we got overseas postage? Because between 50 and 60 doesn't seem like a lot of money if you're, for example, sending things to America.
It's about 50-50 with the overseas members. We do have quite a number that we post to Australia and Switzerland and Belgium and wherever. About half of them are online, and obviously the differential was more substantial for them. It's if Harry's proposals or whatever proposals are accepted, it's bound to go more expensive. The overseas members have, in fact, depending on postal charges, have only just been paying their way, in the sense of making a contribution to the club. The cost of printing is no different, but the overseas postage is quite substantial, which is why in all of the options that we're putting forward for a price increase, I'm increasing the overseas postage membership rate disproportionately slightly more. We have to do that to be fair, because it's not right that UK members or anybody else should be subsidising one particular group. We all pay our way, we all make our own contributions.
No, I totally agree. I just wondered if it was actually enough to cover people who are overseas getting hard copies.
It will be after whichever price rises are put through, even the lesser ones.
Okay, thank you, Phil. While we're talking on this subject, I have here an email from Bob Hobbs when he offered his apologies for the meeting, and he did want to be included in this particular part of the discussion. My opinion that I wish to have included in the discussions during the meeting is that I believe that the current membership rate is very low compared with many similar clubs. With a massive increase in cost of storing spares, it is only sensible to cover some of that cost from membership fees if necessary. Also, the fee has remained constant for quite a long time, and I'm sure that the basic cost of running the club, such as insurance, has raised has risen considerably since the last review of the fees. I think that's the pertinent part of his discussion. I'm not quite sure whose phone that is that's ringing. I don't think it's mine.
Hello.
Okay, so that's Bob's input. My input actually is that a quick look round other clubs. Even at our new proposed rates, we're still at the cheap end of the range if you compare us to, say, the MG club. Sorry, I shouldn't be jumping into this discussion. Harry, anybody else who wants to chip into Harry's discussion?
Doug, I think you've got your hand up there. Yeah.
Yes. I mean, I think that the proposal you make, I think, is quite fair. I think the thing is to really make just a good story, because obviously we initially missed that point about whether you do get the calendar and the fact you'll get a globe at Christmas, etc. I think if you put a good story in there along with some examples, you know, as you say, as Chris has just mentioned about the MG club, I think you will. I don't think you'll lose many members. I think most people will accept that, you know, a price increase really in membership for what, 6 years is, you know, and now unfortunately, you know, we've got to bite the bullet, and we will have to accept it. You know, I would support the proposal, but I think just carefully word up how you present that to the rest of the membership, just so that they are fully aware of why and sort of how and the comparatives with one or two other clubs and things. And I think you'll find that we won't suffer unduly with members just deciding not to go down the online route, which effectively, I think, as long as it doesn't drop down, I mean, I suppose with the overseas members and that, you may to a point where, you know, if you get into the £100 only spend, where £75 is the minimum charge sort of thing, there might come a point where you will have to virtually say, well, we're only going to do one print run a year, which is the Christmas one, and that you don't get any printed copies at all at that point. You know, but cross that bridge when we get to it. But I think for now, I think what's being proposed is reasonable, without a doubt.
Thank you, Doug.
That's perfect. Thank you very much, Doug.
I can't tell whether Jim's inputting his hand up or just moving his phone around. Okay.
Certainly, we've got Roger.
Yeah, I would just like to add that we've always made it a principle of the club membership that we will continue to do a printed copy for those people who would like it. I'm particularly aware that we have got obviously quite a number of our members are getting on in years now, and several are not what you call computer literate. We've got, I think, 18 or 20 who don't even have an email address, and another half a dozen who say, yes, I've got an email address, but I never use it. So the printed copy is important to people, and I would like us to continue that all the while we possibly can, so long as I think the big thing that helps us there is that the print technology has changed so much over recent years. It used to be that a minimum print run of 150 or 250 was required by many printers, but now they just put the electronic thing in, they say how many copies they need, it runs off, they staple it and trim it. It doesn't matter very much whether that's a small run or a large run. And I think that situation is likely to continue. We should be able to continue doing a printed version for those people who want to pay for it.
Absolutely. No,
okay, does that conclude that discussion then? So Harry, we'll take those points away and discuss them at the next committee meeting.
Yep, no, that's great. Thank you very much, everyone, for your input.
Yes, thank you for all those inputs. That's been helpful. Right, so the next item on the agenda here says spares service report, which is for Paul to talk to. Are you ready to go, Paul?
Yes, I am. Yes, lovely. Thank you, Chair. And I think probably just to get on record, following on from the Harry's discussion, is the important thing to remember, reference membership, and those that may consider jumping ship because of the increase is that we will only sell spares to paid up members. Now, it may be that those members jumping ship haven't got a car, and that's absolutely fine. But there has been a couple of occasions in the last 12 months where non-members have come to me to buy spares, and they've been given the option to join the club, and they haven't. Therefore, they haven't had the spares. So just to get that point on record to follow on from Harry's discussion. So yes, Spares Secretary's report. Hopefully, you've seen my my report that was circulated. But yes, it's been a year already. I can't believe where that year has gone. It's been a very steep learning curve for me. I've in all my sort of working career, I've never been brilliant at learning stuff, but actually I've absorbed an awful lot of stuff in the last 12 months about renowned spares, and my knowledge is certainly improving. Thanks to all the members that have come to us for spares, and in the early days have put up with maybe the service that wasn't quite as good as it could have been from the outset, but it has improved. At the time of writing the report, we'd issued 87 invoices. As of yesterday, we've hit the magic 100 invoices. I think only about 4 of those were issued and then cancelled. So, as I say, there is quite an encouraging number of people wanting spares. That said, those can range from a couple of gaskets at £4 up to some significant orders being in the hundreds. So if all of those invoices were £200, £300, £400, then we possibly wouldn't be having the deficit conversation. But some of the bits and pieces that we stock are low cost but very important items. So yes, while 100 invoices sounds a lot, the income doesn't necessarily match that number. As Harry said, we did purchase some stuff last year. I'm trying to keep purchase of parts to a minimum, only because we are a relatively small club. We're not ordering thousands of items at a time, and the smaller amount of items you do order, the more expensive they are. So I'm not ordering an awful lot of stuff. And as it says in my report, obviously throughout the year, the committee we will have to have the discussion about what do we replace and what we don't, because there is an awful lot of stuff that is available from elsewhere, from other suppliers, at probably a much better rate than what I can source it for and buy it in, and then obviously those costs have got to be passed on to the member. So if you can buy something from elsewhere for £5 and we will need to charge £9 for it, then quite rightly, for reasons of economy, people may well go elsewhere, but then that will drop our parts income down, whereas expenditure's gone up because we've had to buy the parts in the first place. So it may well be that moving forward, as and when some of the stuff we keep in stock isn't replaced because you can get it elsewhere, but obviously the stuff that's very unique to the vehicles, that sort of structural parts and things like that, we'll do our best to sort of keep in stock and supply as and when we can. Again, unfortunately to say, Bob isn't online, but I would pass on my thanks still to Bob, who's been really helpful to me for keeping keeping advice coming, and helping me out on some parts questions. And those of you with access to the WhatsApp group online, you'll see that he's still quite active there, and he's happy to provide advice and comment on some of the items that are coming up on WhatsApp. And just really finally to reiterate, it makes my job very much easier and quicker if members can, when they're asking for parts, quote the part number out of the spares book that's available online on the website. it saves then me having to do it or go back to the person that's asking, just to sort of clarify exactly what it is you want. You know, just asking for an oil gasket, you know, isn't helpful. But if it's an oil gasket with a part number next to it, I can cross-reference that in the book and make sure, hey, we've got that in stock, and then get it off to you as soon as possible. And I do understand that, you know, obviously, as we've already mentioned, there are people that don't have access to that online, and there's a couple of members that you know that I deal with throughout the year that aren't computer savvy, and you know we'll just contact them direct by phone and sort that out. But as I say, it does help me enormously if you can order stating the actual part name and number as found in that book. And I think, Chair, that's probably about it, unless anybody's got any questions for me regarding parts.
Thank you, Paul. Doug, did you want to say something?
Yeah, with some of these parts, for argument's sake, like water hoses and so forth, which I'm sure, you know, as you say, something like having MG spares and people like that supply to the TR market. I don't know where some of the parts you source of these newer types are, but whether, from the club's point of view, whether we have a relationship where, for argument's sake, if you say to somebody, well, we don't stock it, but this particular supplier does, whether we get or could set up any form of kickback arrangements whereby you get some benefit from the fact that you've passed on a customer to them for what you might class are commodity type parts, you know, that cover, you know, come from a range of vehicles, etc., rather than the stuff that's unique. You know, I don't know whether we have anything in place or could do anything like that.
It's worth considering, Doug. Yes, we don't at the moment. There are basically 3 signposts that I sort of send people to. One's eBay, you know, with the sort of caveat that be careful what you order off of eBay. Rimmer Brothers is the other, because they stock an awful lot of the TR parts that are compatible with ours, and they've just taken on Moss as well, so that will increase their sort of stock availability. And the other one is vintage and classic parts. I think I haven't spoken to either of those. You know, with your suggestion, it's worth considering. The amount of probably stuff that we direct towards them, it might not be viable for them to do that, but it may be worth asking the question. Thank you.
Yeah, I was to say, because I think I would say it's having an MG spares or something like that, but it's actually part of, I think, the GG Manners group. And I think that vintage car spares, they run about 4 or 5 different outlets, as under different names for various reasons. I don't know why they do it like that, but yeah, that's another, as you say, one of the other major suppliers.
Yeah,
and obviously they're in the position to get stuff, you know, manufactured, and that might be another place to talk in terms of things that we might need manufacturing, but using who they go to for, because it's unique to our car. We're not stepping on anybody's toes, but they could help in providing good contacts where, you know, a run of X number of parts for somebody, you know, could help.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Roger.
Yeah. 2 quick points. One, I think we owe a vote of thanks to Paul for having you know, completed this transition from Bob Hobbs to himself running the spares. There's a colossal amount of work that goes on in there. It's not been easy, and obviously the change from Bob, who has lived renowned bits and pieces all his life effectively since doing the rebuild on his own car. Paul's in a very different situation, and it's not easy. I'm very conscious of that. Secondly, I remember either last year or the year before, Bill Unger, who is here with us today, suggested that having a list of suppliers that we know of who can do this stuff, so that people can just check on that, would be a good idea, particularly, of course, for the US market, where we can't sell them spares anyway. If we liaise with the Triumph register in the USA and can set up a register of places that people can try for bits and pieces, I think that would be a very valuable contribution we could make.
Okay, yeah, thanks, Roger.
Gordon, did you have something you wanted to?
I would echo Roger's thanks to Paul as well. I think, yeah, he's taken on a big task. So again, I would say, well done. Excellent.
Thank you, Gordon.
Yeah, I was just agreeing with thanking Paul for what he did, and Doug's idea about getting some sort of kickback. You know, in theory sounds okay, but it's probably not unworkable. I agree with Paul about the storage. I mean, eventually, potentially, you know, the storage can be slimmed down to exclude things that are readily available elsewhere. And then, you know, we don't get sort of involved with a price warfare. You know, if you can get a set of points or a hose from somebody. The other thing, you know, which I think has sort of slightly been covered, is the sort of sharing of information. And there was a conversation that I was watching with quite interest on the WhatsApp group, when someone was, I don't know exactly, I can't remember who it was, someone was talking about getting an upgraded starter motor. I think because the original starter motor has an inbuilt sort of fault where the rubber sleeve starts to slip, so that, you know, they were looking at, so someone had looked around and sourced a best place on price, which, you know, out of interest, I was looking around too. And then there was a conversation about making sure you get the right one and it's got the right number of teeth on it. And I don't know how the story ended, but that sort of exchange of information is useful. You know, if you've got a part that you can't get, but one of these will do, you know, other units are available, guys, and the usual disclaimer. But it's very helpful. You know, I've gone through a couple of starter motors, and I had a hell of a job trying to source the bit that the sleeve, you know, start slipping on, and my thoughts are, well, when next time it goes, I'm getting something more modern. But, you know, that's my 2 pence.
All right, Gordon, thank you.
Okay, Trevor?
Yeah, just a thought. Is it overseas, which is a problem in America? But America, I don't know what the name is, but they bought up everybody. They own Moss, they own Rimmer Brothers. So if you sell parts to Rimmer Brothers for them to pass to America, are you still liable, or is it covered by Rimmer Brothers or the other people's insurance? In other words, not have an agreement with the companies in America that if Triumph Renown owners go to them, that they will supply parts through their organisation.
To the best of my knowledge, Trevor, that is still the minefield of that. If anything went wrong with the part, it's traced back to the original supplier, and if the original supplier is us, then the other company is very unlikely to indemnify us, because we are the supplier of the part. Most of the parts that we would probably have to supply are very new but very old stock. You know, and whilst at the year of manufacture, probably in 1950, they were built to a certain specification. That specification, you know, for that market may not be sufficient for you know, sort of the insurance and indemnity purposes. We have had this discussion on, you know, as the committee, but it still would appear that sort of from an insurance liability point of view, we would still be responsible because we were the original supplier.
Yes, we have reviewed our position on sales to other parts of the world, and I think that the statement that's currently visible on the web page still stands. While I've got your attention, on the same in the same vein, the committee is very reluctant to put out a list of recommended suppliers, because we don't really want to be seem to be endorsing anybody, and we wouldn't want somebody who had a bad experience to come back and wag their finger at us saying, "Oi, you suggested this lot and they're rubbish." So we're actually keeping well away from those two areas. If there's anything else for, sorry, Paul.
Sorry, Chris, and just to draw a line under that, quite rightly, as Chris says, that's the reason why we are reluctant to do it. And in the first instance, we do want members to come to us to ask, have we got an item? Because if we have, then yes, we can sell it, and it's a benefit benefits the club, and obviously reducing the amount of stock that we're holding. If I do direct anybody, and say, no, unfortunately, we don't have that in stock. There are other suppliers out there. For example, this is one of them. And then the caveat I always put, to that is that, but you use, a third party supplier for your parts at your own risk, and you should take every every caution to make sure that the part is correct. And then on the bottom of all our invoices, it does always say that the supplier parts, make sure they're either being fitted by somebody competent, or you are competent enough to fit it. So yeah, it that's the stand that we take at the moment.
Okay.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you, Paul. I think we'll draw a line under that at the moment and move on to Roger's input as membership report and editor's report.
Thank you, Chris. The membership side has been my Achilles heel for the past year. The state of the membership spreadsheet this year is probably more crumbly and uncertain than it's ever been in previous year, which is the result of my personal circumstances last year. We had 2 family bereavements at the start of the year, and the arrangements for probates and funerals and all that stuff cut right across the end of April, start of May membership renewal. At the same time, we were going over to, thanks to Harry's inputs, to new bank accounts and slightly updated and more modern ways of receiving money. The result of that was that I wasn't able to do the chasing up of those members who forgot or for one reason or another had not paid their subs. And it's taken a long while to sift through those. The only good thing about that is that as from this May, April-May renewal, we shall be fully back on track again, because we'll know exactly who is paying this time, and we've got it all sorted out. But it has probably lost us a couple of £100 in membership lost fees during last year. It's just the way it is. We couldn't avoid that, I'm afraid. The positive side is that the membership is still pretty strong. We've not been hemorrhaging membership anywhere that we're aware of, and we've still got a steady stream of new members joining. So I think things for the future look very positive and very healthy.
Okay, Roger, thank you. You're going to be newsletter editor now?
Yeah, I've got, oh, right, so I was seeing there was another item in between, but that's the technical officer, which we have not got. Right, the editor side of things is much more positive. We produced our usual 6 editions plus the calendar last year. I continue to get very positive comments from all sorts of people about the being pleased with both of those. I am also very pleased that I've been gradually getting a bit closer to the start of the correct month for the publication dates. That's always been something I struggled with, but we do seem to be getting on top of it. So I'm happy with all of that, if everybody else is.
Yes, thank you, Roger. Thank you for your.
Can I just say a great thanks to Roger for his efforts on the magazine. It's very enjoyable to receive it. He quarter, each 5 months. So very good, excellent. Thank you for doing it. Brilliant.
Thank you, Roger.
It always makes good reading. Well done, Roger. Thank you. The next item on my agenda, I'm not sure I'm going in quite the same order as the one that Roger put out, is the historian's report. Are you still with us, John?
Yes, I've just unmuted myself. I was eating a
Yeah.
biscuit earlier, so I hope you can all hear me. And I didn't think it was fair to invade the meeting with that. Well, as the club's historian and PR officer, I've got rather more involved in spares lately, not to sort of undercut what Paul's doing and the great work he's been doing in the year in the job, but in the great hunt for the spares that were formerly in the possession of the late Chris Hewitt, our former chairman. I ought to give, particularly for new members, a bit of background here. Chris was the closest committee member to me, and we had a lot of good times together. But unfortunately, he was not in a good place for the last 18 months of his life, and I've been involved in the hunt for the spares that he had, largely second-hand spares, but also some new spares. And it was divided down as follows, and this links in with the costs we've had as a club, dealing with the second-hand spares first. Now, Chris had 3 garages, which were, if you like, loaned to us as a club through his generosity, which could have earned income, of course, for probably 15 years, I think, and they're in Ashtead. But we couldn't find them at first. And so, first of all, we had an address but no keys with 3 garages, and that was the wrong address. Then we had the right address, but still no keys in Ashtead as well at the other end. And there was a lot of stuff in his garage next to his house in East Horsley, which has taken about 5 loads to shift without initially using a van. But with Muriel, his widow, moving, the urgency to get that garage cleared was clearly profound. And with a working team of Roger, Tom, myself and Paul, we got all the Horsley spares down to the 2 containers in near where Paul lives. So that's cleared that out. So we've now got 3 garages that we need to get stripped out. And so we've cleared 1 garage. That's completely empty. We've got 1 garage full of stuff, which is going to go to the scrap man, comprising all sorts of metal parts. We've got numerous radiators that we don't need, and because they can usually be repaired. And then we've got a 3rd garage, which is probably about a quarter full, where we couldn't get them onto the van that moves stuff from Horsley to Ashtead, and then Ashtead garages to the containers. So that's where we are now. So I've got to find a scrappy I can trust to give us some money for the scrap value and get them out of this central garage, which only leaves 1 garage to clear now. And just to show how convoluted this story is, I got quotes to break into these 3 garages by the time I got the correct ones, by the way, which was going to cost some £200 because each garage has 3 keys. So that's 9 keys, and it was cost about 250 quid to break into them and get new locks. But the keys turned up in Lincoln, believe it or not, and they were in the back of the Woody, which, along with Harry, starred in the Bangers and Cash end of the Bangers and Cash Series 10 series, which was aired last October. So we were really lucky to get these keys back. And we've also been really lucky to have free storage for 20 years, possibly, at either Horsley or the 3 garages. So that's where we are on spares and my involvement. And I'd just like to thank those who've been of assistance to me in quite a task, actually, of shifting this stuff. I mean, I can still see Roger lifting a gearbox single-handed without injury at our last Ashtead session. Right, so that deals with that. I don't know whether anyone's got any questions on spares and second-hand spares at all before I go on to TROC 50. If not, then I'll move on to TROC 50. Now, we're really lucky here in that we can go back to the site of our first ever rally in '76 and go back to the original site in Burford, the Cotswold Wildlife Centre. And incredibly, the business has passed from father to son in the intervening 50 years. And by a weird coincidence, I met the current guy who owns it socially about 10 years ago. So we were pushing in an open door, I think, when we'd made our comeback after at least 3 or 4 visits in the early days of the club. And tying in with that, I've been working on my very first book, which by a happy coincidence, I was approached by Amberley Publishing. They do a lot of books on what I'd describe as minority interests, into which we fall. By coincidence, there's a new book on the Standard Vanguard out now, and I've invited Kevin Warrington, the author of that book, who's written other Triumph books, to join us in July, which he's happily taken up. So you can either buy his book there, if he can bring them along, or online now. And there are various sources. If anyone wants details of where you can get them, just drop me a line. But I bought mine on eBay because that was about the best deal. But you can also buy them through the Vanguard Club. So that's that one. And now the PR drive starts, and that's something I've got to do with the classic car magazines to make sure that in this incredible 50th year, we get everything we can out of it in terms of PR with the classic car press.
Good.
And then just finally, I don't know whether many of you know the name Richard Langworth, but I heard just a couple of weeks ago that Richard had died. He's based in America, and he was one half of the duo that wrote the original Triumph history book back in the 1970s. And there have been various editions published since. And of course, he wrote this book along with Graham Robson when they were both relatively unknown, incidentally. So it's a very sad occasion for me personally, because I've met the great guy, a very nice chap. So there's obituaries online, and I've written my own personal one for the Globe. So you'll be glad to know it's the end of my story, and sorry it was a bit longer than normal.
Well, thank you, John. All good, interesting stuff. The next item on the agenda is website development. You put this stuff for me again. There's not a lot to say about the website other than really to point out that I'm still collecting social media snippets from Facebook and WhatsApp and trying to marshal them onto the web page, so that if you did see something interesting on the WhatsApp discussion, hopefully it'll end up on the web page more or less in the same technical sequence as the service manual. If anybody's got any bright ideas as to how to marshal all that lot, please let me know in due course, and that will have to do for the website development report. The next item on the agenda was future club activities, particularly the 50th rally, which I think Tom and Harry were going to talk to or advertise. Tom?
Yes, right. Briefly, Mike Sampson and I went last week to Chatsworth, to the Cotswold Wildlife Park, and also to the hotel where we're going to have a meal. So I'll just briefly go through one or two salient points just to guide people who might be thinking of attending, and we would like you to attend. Details of prices applicable will be put into the globe. All the information that you want about prices will be in there. We have got a preferential rate. Cotswold Wildlife Park are very welcoming. They don't want any money from the club as such. They're merely happy to take a preferential rate for everyone who comes through the gate. Again, Roger will publish all the details, but I think we're going to need, as a form of obtaining this preferential rate, you'll need to show the gate staff a copy of the globe. I think it will be the June one, but you do need to have that. And if you take it electronically, then obviously a copy on your phone to enable you to get these preferential rates. Roger will publish all that in the magazine. Now, we were told by the staff at Cotswold Wildlife Park that there are difficulties. Queues do accrue towards 12 o'clock. And with a warm engine when you've done a long journey, that's not the sort of thing you want to have to put up with. So the site opens at 10, and they do recommend that we try to get there before 11 because queues do build up, and with a car like ours, it's not easy being in the queue. Mike Sampson has drawn up some maps to show you the preferred route of approach to the Cotswold Wildlife Park so that you're minimum of delay in getting into the site. That will all be published in the magazine. If anyone wants to trailer their car there are facilities to unload it in the coach park. There's plenty of room there. We have a prime site right next to the entrance, to the official entrance. It's a prime site, and I think in this occasion we will be having a lot of the public wandering around because of where we are. So in the magazine in due course, there'll be a map showing the facilities available at the wildlife park, preferred routes to get into the place, and again, we'll have some token recognition for the staff at the wildlife park to give you the preferential rate for getting in. Mike and I then went to the Fox and had a meal there. Now, car parks, I ought to just mention to any of you who are coming to our evening function, there are two car parks, a large one and a small one. The larger one is the one I would recommend that you go into. The management there are trying to expand the facilities they have to offer, and they would like to have a lineup of our cars in this car park sometime in the evening. How that will be worked out, I don't know. When Mike and I were talking, the chap there, Terence, said that he would rope off an area for about 5 Razoredege cars. He'd like those lined up in a photograph just to show, to put on their website. So it's a bit of publicity for us as well to show what they have to offer. Now, we're having an evening meal. Again, Roger will publish all the details in the magazine, but we're restricted to a maximum of 40 people. So bear that in mind. If you want to go to the meal in the evening, let Mike Sampson or myself know, and then we'll keep you informed. We can't give you a menu yet. That will be available sometime. As soon as we get it, we will let the people who've expressed an interest in coming, we'll let you know what it is. But all sorts of allergies can be catered for as well. There is a cut-off point a fortnight before the rally when we do need to tell the hotel how many people are coming and what their choice of meals will be. But this will all be in the magazine. But if you want up-to-date information, keep in touch with either Mike Sampson or myself. I will be pestering the manager at the hotel to get this menu as soon as I can, because we don't want any last-minute flaps and people wanting meals and not getting it organised properly. So routes to get to the Fox as well will be in the magazine. It's a lovely place, and we've got a super room. As I say, it can be up to 40 people. So if you have an intention of coming and you've not registered it yet, let Mike Sampson or myself know by email, and we'll put you on the list. As I say, going back again to Cotswold Wildlife Park, we've got a prime site. I'm really chuffed with this. It's a compact site. It's adjacent to the car park. So if you're coming in your modern car, not in a Razoredege, then you can park adjacent to our rally site. And I feel sure that because of the position we're in, we'll get lots of the public wandering around as well and wanting to know about the cars. So be prepared to have questions asked. As I say, we've had utmost cooperation from Cotswold Wildlife Park. They're so chuffed that we're going back there, and they've bent over backwards for us. No charge, made on the club, just merely, as I said, members and their friends and family who are coming along. So keep your eye on the magazine. Roger will publish all the information we've got. And finally, as I say, to sum up, if you want to come to the meal, get in touch with Mike and I and register your interest, and then we'll keep you informed about menus when they come by. But I'm sure it will be a good turnout, and it's an ideal location. Plenty for the children to do, obviously, wandering around looking at animals. So, please come along and support us. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Can I make a comment with regards to the Burford rally?
Yeah.
If I can. Hello, Tom. It's Graham here.
Hello, Graham. Good morning.
I think it's safe for me to say that I'm the closest member to Burford, with living only 10 miles away from Burford, and the car is kept in a garage even closer than that. If it's possible, I know insurance comes into lots of things nowadays, but if it's possible, I'm quite prepared to assist the club in any way they would like me to on the day, being the closest member with setup and stuff like that. So I'm offering my services, and I do talk to Mike a lot. So if that's okay, I'll have a conversation with Mike at some point.
That would be lovely, Graham. I think 10 o'clock, if you can be there for 10, for instance, because that will help us to put up the marquees if they arrive, and the banners and that sort of thing. That would be a wonderful offer, that, Graham. Yes, thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, Graham. Thank you, Tom.
Right.
I think the next item on the agenda is, in fact, any other business. Doug, how can we help you?
To add to what Graham said, Graham, we live at just the east side of Cirencester, so yeah, 15 miles or so. So we'll try and aim to get there for 10 o'clock as well to unload the kids and get them rallying around and helping out. So yeah, we'll be there as well.
Good stuff. Right then.
Can I just note that for the evening meal on the Saturday, we're up to 16 at the moment.
Okay, thanks, Mike.
I assume you've got mine and Martin Doughty's on your list.
I have.
Yeah, good.
Okay. Is there any other business that anyone would like to raise before we draw the meeting to a close?
Only to say thank you to all the committee members for all your hard efforts for the past year or so, and continued efforts for us on our behalf. So thank you very much indeed.
Okay, well, that's kind of you, and thank you to all of you for your inputs and your presence here.
Chris,
yes.
Sorry, beg your pardon. I've got my hand up. Did you just want to mention about the? You spoke about the website, but just plug the merchandise.
Well, yes, I suppose I've been sitting here plugging it all for an hour. We now have a deal with a local to me vendor of outerwear, which they embroider our logo. The items that they currently got on their list are visible on the website. All you have to do is click on our logo on their website and order your products.
I've ordered one.
Good. The club doesn't make any money out of that. It's obviously far too expensive for us to stock clothing in various sizes, but they do all the stocking, and when you order something, they embroider it up and send it off out to you. You'll have to pay the carriage.
I will just add,
you've got your hand up.
An endorsement from Colin Rice, one of our members, who saw the ad for the merchandise in the February Globe, and contacted me quite enthusiastically to say he'd had a rush of blood to the head, gone out and bought one of each, which I think is great. And he says they're all very good quality. He was very positive about it.
Oh, that's good to know. What I would say is that I live just round the corner from the vendor, and if anybody wants to save themselves the carriage costs, you let me know that you've placed an order. It's easy enough for me to collect the items from the vendor and come to the rally, for example, with them. Right. I think the only other item on the agenda is the date of the next AGM, which will be about this time next year. We'll fix a date and let you all know in good time. So thanks again for your attendance. Thanks for your inputs. And, you know, keep the club going, guys. At that point, we'll draw the meeting to a close and Mike can turn the recording off. Thank you.
Cheers. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Goodbye.